We break it down right now with Jim Woolsey. He's former CIA Director. Director Woolsey, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Maria.
What's your take on what we've heard so far, Mr. Pompeo and Mr. Mattis?
Well, these are, in Pompeo's case, are good appointments, and in Mattis' case, I think would be a very good appointment. These are people who have focused on these issues in their careers, especially General Mattis. Mike Pompeo, I've only met to talk to once, but I was quite impressed with his background and history and abilities and conversation about the issues. So I think it looks like it's the beginning of a very good team.
But when you look at the CIA today and the intelligence, I mean, we've had an extraordinary year, from the hacking stories to the WikiLeaks data dumps. What do you think is the most important pressing issue that the country faces that the team, the national security team, needs to prioritize?
Well, to deal with terrorism, we can't just sit there like a goalie in hockey and hope to stop every shot on net. We've got to infiltrate the terrorist groups. And that means running your police departments and so forth much more the way Giuliani and Kelly ran things in New York right after 9/11. They didn't ignore going to meetings of religious groups and so forth. Doesn't mean they arrest people because they are of any particular origin, origin or religion, but you may need to keep an eye on, as Giuliani's put it, when he was dealing with organized crime, he visited the Sicilian neighborhoods a lot more than he did, say, the Swedish ones. I mean, one has to infiltrate the terrorists. You can't just stand there. And I think that's one major aspect of what has to happen.
Oh, Jim, it's Dagan McDowell. There was an arrest here in New York City where a man was arrested for trying to join ISIS, and he was actually caught on a wiretap talking about the kind of attack that happened in the south of France with the truck and guns attack. But how deep are our resources that we don't even understand at this point?
Well, we have a number of people in the intelligence services and in the NYPD and other institutions, FBI, that do understand terrorism rather well and are getting more and more understanding of it. But it's a very hard job to stop everything. And I think one thing we're going to have to do also is be more aggressive with respect to our cyber use and go after communications vigorously and not only listen in on the terrorists and groups affiliated with them, but go after them with cyber attacks ourselves. We have to take the gloves off. This is going to be bad if we just sit here and say, well, it's a tough problem. Maybe we'll stop them before they kill too many people. We can't do that.
With that in mind, what are your thoughts on the loss of the ability to collect telephone metadata? Because having worked in the intelligence community, I've seen how that metadata can be used to sort of highlight people who are connected with known terrorists in other countries. You know, this in this case here in New York, an FBI informant made contact. So somehow the FBI must have known that potential terrorist was trying to commit an attack and then put an informant in place. But what are your thoughts about the loss of metadata collection when it comes to telephone records?
I think, first of all, people need to understand that metadata is what's in first-class mail on the outside of the envelope, not the inside. It's the postmark, it's the return address, it's the address, and the date. That, since the 1940s, we've been authorized, the government has been authorized to have the post office, for example, put a mail watch on someone and to look at that data, not to open the letter and get to the inside. And when the government started doing that with emails, for example, or telephone messages instead of the old-fashioned first-class letters, people got very, very upset because the numbers are huge. We send a lot more emails than we used to send first-class letters. And the size of the numbers led to some substantial restrictions on NSA and other parts of the intelligence community and the police from keeping an eye on what was going on in terrorist groups. And I think that's a shame, because they were not violating the law. They were not going into the interior of communications without warrants and so forth. But people were very upset at the numbers, and that has crippled our ability to stop terrorism to some degree.
Let me ask you about what's happening this week. The New York Police Department ramping up security for the Thanksgiving Day parade amid these threats from ISIS. Director Woolsey, what's your take on the target and really threats of soft targets in the U.S. right now? Can you characterize where we are?
The terrorists really like to go after symbols. I was worried after 9/11 they'd go after the Statue of Liberty. They like to do things on dates that are important to us, and sometimes that are important to them, such as Thanksgiving. There are other things that they look to, but when something happens on the date, as it did in Boston a couple of years ago, of the beginning of the American Revolutionary War, it's a date that picks up the conscience and the notions of effectiveness of the terrorists, and they go after it.
Right.
So we are right to worry about Thanksgiving. We'll be right to worry about Christmas. We'll be right to worry about the 4th of July. Those are dates in which they think they are really slamming us and getting good publicity and damaging our self-confidence if they can carry out an operation on a date like that.
Director, here's John Hilsenrath from the Journal.
Jim, Mr. Trump wants to forge a closer relationship with Russia. Do you think we're in a position to be a partner with Russia, particularly in the fight against terrorism? Is Putin a potential ally for the United States in this effort?
Jury is still out. It depends a lot on Putin's behavior, I think. It's not impossible. We have allied with some pretty ugly dictators in the past in order to accomplish something we had to do, such as win World War II. I mean, we were allied with Stalin, and Franklin Roosevelt called him Uncle Joe, and so forth. So sometimes you have to be a partner with someone you, in the abstract, would rather not be. But I think the jury is still out on whether Putin would work effectively with us or use this as an excuse to move against other countries in the Caucasus and Baltic states and so on. I'm still a bit skeptical, but it could work.
Director Woolsey, good to see you. Thanks so much for your insights this morning.
Sure, good to be with you.
We appreciate it. Jim Woolsey there.